Hello, everybody. Welcome here to the Prog Monster. I'm just going to pull this back. My name is Murph, and I am the host of this show, a show dedicated to progressive rock and other form of rock music. So we're here with this live stream tonight, talking about 5 legacy bands and a particular album I've picked from each of these 5 bands. I tried to when I did this, I tried to pick albums that weren't necessarily considered their best album, but very strong albums, all 4 of them in. And I think the primary reason I chose them all is because each of the 5, if I'm looking seriously at them, has had a bit of either a renaissance with me lately, or I've begun to really start to like them more than I had previously. Of the 5, you've got 2 that I'm not as familiar with as the other 3. And the reason I'm not as familiar with them is because it took me longer to get into them. And in the case of one of them, maybe I'm not as 100% into it yet, but I recognize that all of them have a few things in common. They all have great instrumentation. They're all really well written. They all sound good. And there's some extraordinary musical parts to them all. Also, I think if I'm in my opinion, they all have great vocals. There's one here that some people are going to take exception to what I have to say about it, but that's fine. Everybody hears these things differently. You may absolutely love a band, think there's nothing but perfection from them, love their vocals, love everything about them. And then I listen to it and say, I don't really like that, or I really don't like this. Or it might be the opposite. Maybe I really love something and you just can't understand why I like it at all. So that happens. It's because we all hear things with our own emotional stuff going on, our own backgrounds, our own good times, bad times, all that kind of stuff, which all of this stuff affects how we listen to music, right? The good thing about this channel that I really like is that when I first started it, I just wanted to kind of present albums to people so that they could see if there's something out there they might like. That was my original goal. But since then, I've realized that a lot of this journey is for me as much as it is for you. So even though I'm trying to impart stuff that I know and maybe turn you on to some music, it's also, I'm finding lots of people are making me turn on to stuff that I never, ever would have thought that I would have listened to. The funny part is I once thought I was very open-minded about music and could take just about anything. And then when I look back now, I was very closed-minded and had a very, very narrow wheelhouse of stuff that I liked. And it took a lot to penetrate my wheelhouse. And I know that because there's at least a half dozen to a dozen bands that I now listen to that I listened to back in my youth, but dismissed because I thought they were no good, and never gave them another chance for a very long time. So I was very narrow-minded about it. And hence the reason why at some point in the 90s, I kind of stopped listening to music a lot, because if you're only listening to a certain sound and music or a certain group of bands, eventually you're going to play all their stuff and become burned out on them and just not really, then you're just out of stuff to listen to, and that's pretty much what happened. I thought I discovered all of the prog bands there were. I had about 7 or 8 of them on my list. I thought, that's it. There's no other prog bands. There's no other hard rock bands. There's no other metal bands. And I just never went forward. And now that I've taken on this channel and been exposed to a lot of different music, I realize there just isn't enough time in any given day to listen to everything out there that's good. There's been more great albums put out in this year than in any other year that I can remember. Maybe it's because I'm growing in this channel and that's why I'm seeing this. But I think there's been an exceptional amount of music put out there this year, even just in the prog community alone. So, anyways, I'm going to get on with the show, as they say. On with the show. This is it, Hanna-Barbera. So I don't have these in any particular order. I think originally I had them in alphabetical order. Maybe I'll go back to that. Let's do that. Let's go back to alphabetical. And we'll do them in reverse order, since often the A people get to go first. Well, this time the Z people will get to go first. Well, actually Y in this case. So I've picked 5 legacy bands here and 5 legacy albums. First one is going to be this one, the Yes, Going for the One. So Going for the One, for me, I always considered a very good album. I never made it a masterpiece, and it's still not a masterpiece with me. There are only 5 Yes albums that are masterpieces. This one is very good, along with Relayer and Tormato and Drama. Those 4 albums were kind of, to me, a little different than the earlier stuff, and had their own kind of sound, a little bit different of a sound. I never really, of those 4 albums I just named, this one would have been my weakest of the 4. But it's grown exponentially, despite the fact that there's a naked man on the cover, which I don't really care for. But, it's kind of funny when you think about it. You've got this naked man on a cover of a progressive rock album, and 95% of the people who watch progressive rock or listen to progressive rock are males. So I'm not really sure what they were trying to. It's just this is a very good album with very songs on it. I think the reason I didn't really jump on this one right away was because I don't really like the song Parallels. It sounds very commercial. It doesn't sound like the kind of Yes that I like. The rest of them I'm fine with. You got Wondrous Stories, which is, to me, kind of a John Anderson song. It would fit very well on a John Anderson solo album, at least the earlier ones, anyways. Turn of the Century is just an absolutely beautiful song. I think of it as a Yes song, but it has just so much beauty to it. It's not just John Anderson's great vocal part, Steve Howe's acoustic part. There's lots of stuff going on in this song. It's an absolute stellar song, I think. Going for the One, which is the title track on this album, it's good, but it's never been one of my favorite on the album either. I think it kind of has a little of that Parallels thing going on with it. At least in my mind, it does. I don't know if it actually does or not. I think it's a better song than Parallels, but it's, to me, those 2 songs kind of go together. And then, of course, you have the absolutely beautiful Awakening, which is, to me, by far the best song on the album. Not just the best song on this Yes album, but is among their very best songs all over it. The keyboard part on it is extraordinary. The way they put it together, fantastic. The arrangement are amazing here. The vocals are great. Both the bass and the keyboard, both the bass and the guitar and the drums, all solid. But it's just the arrangement of the song. It's a very beautiful song. I think if I had to pick the Yes songs that I think are the most beautiful songs that they've ever written, this one's in the top 2 or 3. The other ones might be And You and I, which I think is also a very beautiful song, and Starship Trooper, which absolutely kills me. It's just a spectacular song to listen to. So Awakening is great. This is a very, very strong album. I'm not really crazy about the cover, like I said, or those 2 other tracks. Although they've both gotten, I've gotten I've grown a little bit on both of the tracks, probably a little more on Going for the One than Parallels, but it's a strong album. Whether it ever makes a masterpiece album or not, I'm not sure. It's close. It's a high one, same as Relayer. I think I probably prefer Relayer a little better than this one though. So there you have it. Next up, going in reverse order, of course, is Rush's Farewell to Kings. So this album, for many years, grew stronger and stronger with me. It got all the way up to about number 2, I think, with only Permanent Waves being ahead of it at the time. This one is one of the two pure progressive albums, I think, that Rush put out. They have a lot of their other albums have a lot of progressive elements in them as well, but I think the two main ones, Farewell to Kings and Hemispheres, definitely the most proggy of the albums. And they're tied together because of the last track, Cygnus X1, which was the one track on the album I never really warmed up to, although I have warmed up to it over the last decade or so because I warmed up to the Hemispheres as well. So yeah, so just it's kind of come on for me. Close to the Heart, Cinderella Man, Mad Rigel. I always liked all three. I think they're just a little bit too burned out over the course of time with me. They just haven't been able to hold up as well as they once did, but still really good songs. Now, the other two songs that are from side one on the vinyl version of this album, A Farewell to Kings, the title track, and Xanadu, the epic length track on here, one of their greatest tunes. Both these two songs combined make this probably the most listened to side of an album that, for me, in my history. I cannot come up with another side of an album that I've listened to more than that. I don't get bored of these two songs. They still have as much power as they've ever had, but they're pretty much holding this album up now because the backside I just don't really listen to it as much as I once did. It's still good. I'm just kind of burned out on it, but that side I never kind of burned out on it. This was a very different album, as were all of their albums, really. Each of their albums, probably for the first 7 albums, sounded very different. Hemispheres and Farewell to Kings, maybe not so much. Hemispheres maybe a little heavier than this one, but they're both very similar in sound. Whereas 2112, Caress of Steel, and Fly By Night, and of course their debut album, all sound vastly different from each other. Once you got to Permanent Waves, going forward, that electronic sound just became more and more electronic and much more than I would have liked. But still, this is a great album. I still like it a lot. It's maybe not as much as I once did. To me, it's still a masterpiece, though, and deserves to be an album that's talked about regularly. Okay, the number 3 album on this list comes from Jethro Tull. This one, Stormwatch. Not my favorite Jethro Tull album. Still not a masterpiece for me. It has to go through its 3 or 4 years of waiting and then see how it feels when I get to that, and then I'll go over it again. I'm not as familiar with this one as the previous 2 albums. Those 2 I've listened to probably thousands of times, both of them. This one, maybe, I don't even know if I listened to it 100 times, but it's really good. I've grown to like it more and more as I listen to it. I originally had this one and Broadsword and the Beast and the other one, Heavy Horses, were all on my playlist at the same time. And both Broadsword and the Beast and this one were like neck and neck the whole time. But since that time, I think this one I've come to like this one a bit more than Broadsword and the Beast. It's just a strong album. Everything on here is good. It's clear. The vocals are good. The musicianship is fantastic. There are some bonus tracks on here that are quite good as well. But, the Flying Dutchman is on here. There's some really strong stuff on this album. Orion, Dark Ages. Yeah, this is a strong album and a great cover too, right? One of his better covers. I wish he did more covers like this. His recent albums, his last three, yeah, I'm not overly crazy about any of their covers. But this one maybe ended an era or two. It's maybe the last great Jethro Tull album. All the albums going forth were good. There were some good ones. There were some not so good ones. There were some mediocre ones. There were some ones that had some really good stuff on it, but not an entirely good album. Instrumentation wasn't as great on some of them as others, but still some very good stuff. Some people would say A is a very good album too. I'm getting into that one now, so I'll let you know when I'm done. But for me, it kind of ends with this one. This, to me, maybe the last great album by Jethro Tull. It just has so many good things about it that I can listen to this as background. I can listen to this by just sitting there and listening to it. I can put it on the headphones and listen to it. All those ways, to me, are great with this album. And I just love everything about it. So, Stormwatch, Jethro Tull. So this next album goes back with me probably as far as both the Yes and the Rush album. We're talking about Genesis, Wind and the Wuthering. This was one of the first two albums I bought. To be honest with you, I'm not sure if I bought this one first or Trick of the Tail. I always thought of Trick of the Tail, but I think maybe it could have been this one. Either way, I had both of them in the same year at the same time, roughly. This album has just so many good things about it. I don't even know what to say. The guitar is fantastic on this album. I think the keyboards are really good. Phil Collins' vocals are absolutely like beautiful. He has just an absolutely beautiful sounding voice. He's not Peter Gabriel. I used to think they sounded the same, but as I got older, I began to realize they're very different in their sounds, but they're both really good for different reasons. I think musically, vocally, he's probably more talented, Phil Collins. I just think Peter Gabriel has a unique sound that is unique to him, and nobody else has that. So this has 9 tracks on it. All of them are really good. For a long time, 11th Earl of Mar, which is the opening track on this album, was my favorite. And I kind of probably burned it out. I played it a lot, sang it even more. And then I gradually grew into the rest of the album. One for the Vine is absolutely a masterpiece, I think. One of their underrated masterpiece songs to me. Your Own Special Way is that, they had going from Trick of the Tail forward, they probably had one pop song on each album. This one was kind of the beginning of the major pop sound, not as much with Ripples, but a little bit more with this one, and then even more with N, with Follow Me, Follow You, and then, of course, right off the rails with the next album after that. What Gorilla, like Los Endos, both okay. I don't really listen to them much. I don't dislike either of them. They're not songs I think about much, but they're still decent instrumentals, right? The other side of this album, I think, is stronger, though. Originally, the first side was the side I listened to the most, but as years have gone by, this second side has become among my favorites, Genesis sides. All in a Mouse's Night is probably my favorite track on the album now. I think it's been that way for a while. Blood on the Rooftops, absolutely an amazing guitar part, just an amazing song. I think it's one of his Steve Hackett's best written songs. Unquiet Slumbers for the Sleepless and In the Quiet Earth. Both of these are good. They're kind of weird, but they both kind of fit the album. They all have that sound, very smooth, nice production, clear, not raggedy, definitely not a raw sound on this album at all. And then Afterglow at the end, which is okay. I don't mind that. Yeah, and I do like this album cover. It's a little bit gray and dismal, and actually it works better if you show both sides, kind of creating a landscape of stark winter, right? At least that's what it feels like. And the trees have no. It's funny. This tree has leaves on it, but the other one doesn't. So I'm not sure what that's supposed to entail. Maybe this is just before the storm, and maybe this is just after the storm. I'm not really sure. So this album came out in '76. It was there came out after a Tale for a Trick of the Tail. Both these albums in the same year, probably one of Genesis' best years for music. Both these albums are incredible. I wish they'd continued along doing stuff like this, because they had a string of albums that's unparalleled, I think, by anybody. So Wind and the Wuthering is the album for Genesis today. And the last album is only kind of I'm only starting to get into this now. And I'm not really sure why. I've never really liked this band. Vocalist aside, I've never really cared for their sound. We're talking, of course, about Trilogy by Emerson, Lake and Palmer. But many people cite this as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, prog band ever. It's definitely up there. I love Greg Lake's voice. I think he has one of the best vocal voices in prog music by far. The songs on here are good. And I know eventually I can feel. I chose this particular album from them because of I like the album cover. Kind of reminds me of a book I read when I was a kid by John Christopher, The Tripods. I don't know why. It's because there's three of them here, I guess. And it's the artwork of their faces. It reminds me of the characters in the book on the cover of the book as well. Yeah, so this is pretty good. I think this album is kind of growing on me. I'm not sure that I'm going to become an Emerson, Lake and Palmer fan. Maybe I will, maybe I won't. You can't take anything away from their instrumentation. They're just tremendously gifted. It's, of course, this is a keyboard dominated album, and that perhaps is the reason why it's taken me so long to get into them. But I've only recently, in the recent year or so, started listening to keyboard dominated bands and liking them. Bands like Greenslade, and so I'm thinking that this might be at the avenue that pulls me into these guys. But you can't say enough about the artwork, and you can't say enough about this band's abilities and Greg Lake's vocals. I'm hoping that I will become enamored with this band as much as everybody else is. So that's the last of the 5 albums that I chose to kind of do a deep dive on. If I was going to rank them, which I hadn't planned to do, it wouldn't be that hard for me, though. I think you would have to pretty much go with the similar order that I've always probably had. So if I was going to do this, I would say this would be my 5th, only because it's the newest of the 4 or 5 to me. It hasn't even gone into playlist yet, so it's not really fair to rank it, but I like it enough to put it on the list. So it'll be number 5. Stormwatch, which is really getting strong for me, would be number 4. And then the other 3, because I've been listening to them for so long, I'm so much more familiar with them. I would probably go with the Yes Going for the 1 in 3rd spot. Still haven't overcome some of those prejudice against some of the songs. Wind and the Wuthering, probably number 2 here, but at times it would be higher than A Farewell to Kings, but they're both pretty close. Today I'm going to go with A Farewell to Kings in the number 1 spot, Wind and the Wuthering in the number 2 spot. So I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope when you get to see it, I hope you will enjoy this episode of my 5 legacy bands and 5 albums from them. I wanted to do something a little bit different today, so I did that. I'm thinking that probably next week I will pick another, what they call, I can't even remember, one of my collections. I'll pick a collection that I wanted to discuss and bring them all out. So probably that's what I'll do next week. I haven't done one of those for a few weeks, so perhaps that's the way I will go. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this. Please hit the like and subscribe. That helps the channel. And if you want to make any comments about the 5 albums that I talked about, any of them, you can. Or if you want to just rank them the way I kind of rank them, you can rank them too. That would be fine. And we'll see you all next Sunday night for another Into the Progverse. So take care. Have yourself a good evening and goodbye.